Welcome to Club Damingo, brought to you by Cyclone Comics.
And I just had the world's best banana cake as well as chocolate eggs.
Yeah, that's a good lead into the show. Yeah. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Club Damingo. You're with me and him, and we're back for another Monday chat. How you going, Tim?
I'm well. How are you, Gary?
I'm going okay. We've already been solving the world's problems, and
already. We should have recorded the whole lot.
Yeah, it was all good stuff.
Is it cold? Is it cold there, Gary? You got your hoodie on already?
Yeah. I've got my daggest hoodie on at the moment, but it's comfortable and it's the dark mofo.
Ah, very good. That's you, man. You're a dark mofo.
You are.
Your mother is. That's usually your line.
Let's not go there. We'll end up with calling each other meat curtains.
That's right. Do you know what that is? That's why I said that's you be careful who you aim that one at. That's a pretty full on insult there. We should have brought that up before we pressed record.
That's a fresh one outside of the insult oven. Just freshly baked.
Fantastic. Oh God. No, we're still having, is it called an Indian summer when you have summer continuing pretty late into autumn? We've still got like a couple of high 20s days here in Sydney, so another one today. I thought we had been done with it, but yeah, about to drop temperature.
Looking out the window here, the sun is out, and it's been raining yesterday, but it's a fairly mild day in Tasmania today. Yes,
cool. Yeah, beautiful blue skies out my window.
Yes. Hey, talking of Tasmania and Hobart, you heard that the Stanley Awards are going to be held in Hobart this year.
Yeah, fantastic. Very excited. Anne-Marie and I have been trying to figure out, we want to come back and visit. We want to visit you and we want to visit Hobart. And I don't know, because we're that way inclined, we need a good reason. Just visiting you is not good reason enough. So we were looking at like our next significant birthday or something like that. But the fact that the Stanleys are on and the whole Stanley's weekend conference, I guess they'll do a whole conference again.
I think that's
we'll be
plan.
on.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely be there. We'll try to stay for about a week or so.
So apparently it's going to be on the weekend of the 18th and 19th of October.
Is that right?
I think so.
Not the 24th, the following weekend? No.
It might be, but those 19th of October dates have stuck in my head. Yes, let's refer to the Bible. Yes.
Thanks, you're right, 18 and 19. 19 October.
So they haven't been held down here before, so that'll be interesting. There'll be no real excuse for me not to participate in some way, shape or form.
Yeah, and the other fantastic cartoonists that are down there. Can you reel off a couple of names?
Well, of course, it starts off with Glenn Lumsden. And there's Joshua Santo Spirito. He lives down here as well. And that's about the extent of my, off the top of my head, names. Do you know anyone?
Christopher Downs?
Oh, Christopher Downs, of course, yes.
Or Downsy, as we've never called him. Has he ever been called Downsy?
Yeah, of course.
Hey, Downo.
Yeah. This is it. You get put on the spot, and most obvious names, you just go in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, and is it Paul Pert Smith?
I think that's how you pronounce his name. Yeah, he just lives down the road from me, in Cygnet. Yeah. So I'm sure they'll all come out in droves.
I hope to get to meet him. I've never met him.
Yeah, he's a lovely guy. Yeah. I got to meet him first time, not at last year's Stanley's, but the year before. I was sitting with him over dinner at the awards function, and it just seems weird that we just live down the road from each other, and it takes to going to an awards night in Melbourne to meet for the first time. But life is strange that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. So let's make sure that the Stanley's conference has a nice Tasmanian flavour, whatever that might be. The flavour of salmon, or what was the?
Oh, don't even say the S word. That's in hot water at the moment. Oh, get it? Salmon, hot water.
Salmon, hot water, nice.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
The other thing that I thought that we should have a chat about this morning while we're talking on the phone and recording visually is what the hell are we doing here?
What the hell are you doing here in my studio?
Yeah.
I thought it kind of sprang from me texting you one day saying, "How about we catch up once a week and make sure that we're both okay?" That was my intent, and you're the ultimate multitasker, I guess, and said we can do more than just that. So
we can sit down and chat and look at a camera at the same time.
Exactly, and why not? So what do you what did you see it being more than just us talking about our personal stuff, which we might do before and after the show, but also what else?
Well, I just like the fact that it's fairly casual and comfortable chat between two guys that do the same kind of creative work. So it's a chat between two guys, between you and me.
Yeah.
I don't want it to necessarily have much structure beyond that. There are, I think, some expectations from people when as soon as you put it on YouTube or have a podcast that is released out into the wild, that there's some expectations of structure or remit that aren't real life. For example, I don't particularly feel that it's our chatty place to do comic book reviews, for example, or even necessarily to have guests on, because it changes the dynamic of the two guys having a chat.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how you feel about that, but I think just having the chat in and of itself is worthwhile enough without having to be super structured about it.
Absolutely. He says, talking about not being very structured about it, but going through his notes on what we might talk about today before we started the show. There's a little sneak peek behind the meat curtain there. Yeah, I agree. Fantastic. Why not? I'll tell you what though, when I haven't read very much recently because I just don't have the time, and because I'm running late with my last Kickstarter, I feel guilty taking time out to read when I should be doing other stuff. But if I read some stuff that I really think is enjoyable, I'll definitely be telling you about it.
I
give
think that's
that
fair
kind
enough.
of shout out. Yeah, that kind of shout out is good.
But that's the same kind of thing that would happen over. Sorry?
I was going to say, remember when you were hosting the Australian Comics Journal, the Australian Comics Journal?
Oh, yes, I remember that.
And I did quite a few reviews on there, and that was one of the things. I read many more comics than I reviewed, but I only reviewed the ones that I thought were absolutely excellent. Otherwise, why tell people to not buy a crappy comic when you should be telling them to buy a good comic? So that was, I think it should be the similar attitude. Like if we've read something that we think is super cool, we should say so.
So shout outs are fine, which is something that we could do over the phone just as well as on camera as well. You know, like, hey, Tim, you've seen this, it's really good. And leave it at that. But in-depth reviews and stuff like that, I think is not appropriate for what we're trying to set out to do here, I suppose.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, good. Okay. Whew. That's good. So I have had one or two people approach me over the last couple of weeks, sort of cadging maybe you should talk about this and maybe you should talk about that, meaning reviews and certain things, right. and even sort of almost asking whether they can come on as a guest. And it felt a little bit not what we're about. Yeah,
no, totally. Cool.
Okay.
And if we get bored of it, we'll change the format. And if people get bored of it, they'll stop watching, and so be it. So whatever.
Fair call.
Hopefully we're interesting and entertaining enough. We'll see. Hopefully our lives are interesting and entertaining enough.
We'll see. Well, you are.
Exactly.
I just keep on firing questions at you and you keep on answering. So as long as you're a good talker, I think we'll have an audience.
Okay. Fantastic. Cool. What's next?
What's next? I've got to surreptitiously look down at my notes that I haven't made.
Maybe I should hold up the notes for you. Maybe I should have the notes and I can hold them up and no one will know that you're looking at them.
I wanted to talk about who our favourite Australian creatives are. I defaulted straight away to talking about my favourite Australian artists. That's a little bit unfair. So I was wanting to open up the the subject to creatives, so writers and artists or people that do both, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you have a off the top of your head short list of people that go that hit you every single time of, oh, he or she's released something, got to check it out, got to pick it up.
Do
you have, and not either of us, we can't talk about ourselves.
Okay. Got it. Can I talk about my writing partner instead? No, I'm kidding.
It's cheating.
Yeah. So the first, like, maybe we won't do too many of these, but there's a person, a guy, I guess, called Joel van der Knaap, and if you can tell, I'm just reading his name off of his Instagram right now. Right. Joel van der Knaap, and that's KNAAP, Joel van der Knaap, 4 words. And he does a comic called Fortress. His umbrella of comics is Rome Comics, ROAM, and he's been doing kind of mini comicsy sort of stuff, like not full color covers or anything like that, but doing duotone covers or on colored stock, or not black and a color, but 2 different colors sometimes, and veering slightly into maybe art comics sometimes. But the Fortress comics are mostly, I guess, post-apocalyptic future with robots and humans, and it just is. I love the style, and it's so cool. And anytime Joel brings something out, it's not very often that I just buy something off the internet anymore. And I don't know that I've ever met him at a festival or a fair. I don't know where he lives, off the top of my head, but I'll buy his stuff. I think it's just really super cool, and it's one of those things where the artist, the creator rather, is just definitely making whatever it is that makes them happy, and will make it in their own time. And this thing with sentient robots and humans and subterfuge and espionage and a war or whatever it is, and there aren't that many pages of it out in the wild yet. He has a slight, I don't think I've asked him this, but his works reminds me slightly of like a John Byrne, sort of early John Byrne robot sort of thing.
Right.
But definitely with an anime, because John Byrne was influenced by anime as well. But definitely with an 80s anime sort of feel to it. But again, like moving towards something that's more like an art, almost an art comics. Just, it's really lovely stuff. He's worth checking out.
And that's on Instagram at the moment?
Yeah, he's on Instagram.
Oh.
Rome Comics, ROAMCOMICS. And the reason why he's come forefront of my mind is just yesterday, I think it was, he said he's going to do his comic monthly from August. He's going to do, and I don't think it's 20 pages a month. It might only be 16 or 8. I don't know. I'm not sure, because he's actually got some other publisher. So I don't know much about it. It's going to go through Diamond or whoever the current distributors are.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know exactly how, but he's going to ship monthly. He's going to reprint old stuff and then start doing new stuff after that. So it'll be available in comic shops around the world. And it's really exciting for me that somebody in this country doing with us sci-fi comics is saying, I'm going to go monthly, and I've got a little publisher, little art or boutique publisher who's going to back it. And rock on, Joel.
Yeah,
that's what I said.
Good stuff. Yeah. Well, talking of that, releasing regularly, have you been following Beaumont Jardine's Nightside material?
Yeah, where is it? I think I've already put it away somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh my God, isn't he putting us to shame? Having, what's he got, like 12 issues ready to go or something crazy like that?
He's got something silly. He's got 8 or 9 issues of his Nightside series, and I know for a fact he's already got about 4 or 5 issues of his Werewolf. It's not a follow-up, but it's the next project in line that he's got sitting there finished, ready to go as well. So awesome. As far as using Kickstarter for the powers of good and getting a a monthly, even if it's bi-monthly, but it might even be faster than monthly if that's possible, release of a regular series, because all the work is done, and I've seen a lot of it, and it's amazing. Talk about a resurgent powerhouse career move. So
yeah, rock on, Beau.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, and it should be just great fun, right? Great superhero shenanigans with no restraints, I assume. Like he's just going to go mad.
No restraints. No.
Yeah. Let's get some Boat in America into us.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. Yeah.
Can I? Are you going to change? Are you going to move on to someone else? Because I got a Beau story I could tell you.
No, keep on going with the Beau story.
All right. So look, I don't know. I always felt like Beau was a contemporary age-wise, but he must be a few years older than I am. I'm not sure how much older.
About 1,000 years.
Yeah. But he looks so young. It's the blood of.
It's his diet.
Yeah, so I don't know whose blood he drinks, but he's probably drinking some blood from someone. Anyway, I grew up in Croydon here in Sydney, and I can distinctly remember walking home from school one afternoon. So I'm in my school uniform with, I don't know, my backpack or whatever it was. And this fella walks past me at one of the little shopping villages on the way home. And he's wearing the big white Marvel badges that I also had some of, the Paul Smith X-Men badges. So Wolverine and Storm and Phoenix, etc. And he had, I can't remember exactly which one, it was probably Wolverine. And I stopped, and I never meet people at that age. I never meet people who are into comics. And this guy is walking past me in my own suburb with the same badge I have. And I just snapped and said, I'm going to talk to this guy, regardless of how scary looking he is. And I said, I've got that badge. Do you like comics? And we had a little conversation. And I can't, like, this is like a long time ago, decades ago. I can't really remember how long the conversation went for. And I've brought it up with Bodine since then. And he's pretty sure that we chatted for a while, and I can't remember really what happened. But I don't think we saw each other again until years later when I was like, I don't know how, like, well out of school and in uni and doing comics, right? Doing my first comics for like Magnum Opus, which he had the front cover of the first issue. Was it him and Jason that were publishing that, or was it just Jason Paulos?
I'm not sure.
So anyway, all those years later, we re-met up, but it was like, I'll never forget that I passed this guy, and in my memory, he's like this much taller than me. And perhaps he was, perhaps he wasn't, because I have this weird disconnect in my head about people's height. And but yeah, it's cool that I ran into him in my own suburb. And he lived only a little way around the corner from there, so he lived only 5 minutes from my house. But we never really caught up again, I don't think, after that, until we were back in the same circles. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's pretty amazing that he was doing some work with Reverie and using a lot of cameos of different characters on the Australian scene. And he was getting a little bit tired of doing that, although this series does have a cameo or two that it's a holdover from that time period. But then he and I talk quite regularly as well. And he was saying that he just wanted to do his own stuff. He didn't want any restraints. He didn't want anyone telling him what characters he had to deal with and do what, where, and how. And I said, just do it, Beau. Just do it. And he says, well, I'm kind of scared of the Kickstarters and stuff like that. But he has a partner in Kelly that has organised all of that for him, and she has just done a wonderful job, and like packaging his stuff up, dealing with all the other creatives involved, like Darren Close is helping with some lettering, and there's Graham Jackson doing the colouring for the covers and back covers and stuff. So she's corralled the team amazingly well, and it's just starting to churn with and she's getting the muscles on what the strengths and weaknesses of the Kickstarter campaign are, and she's learning so quickly. And so it's just amazing to see this whole campaign just take off. And the second issue is about to hit Kickstarter now, where you can buy the first one as well as the second one. And the third one will come out and buy back issues, and the fourth one and back issues, and the fifth one. And it'll just build and build and build. And he got to a point where he'd finished this 9 issues, and he rang me up and was a little bit frantic, saying, what do I do now? What do I do now? And I basically said, well, what do you want to do? And he had an idea for a werewolf story. And I said, well, just bloody do it. So he did one, and he was in seventh heaven going, oh, this is fantastic. I've wanting to bring this character back, and I'm using one of your characters, and we're sort of having this werewolf thing that can sort of run alongside the project that you're working on, and it's fun. I feel very free and liberated. And so before I knew it, he'd finished the first issue of this werewolf story, and he goes, I've got another idea for a second issue. Is that okay? And I went, do what you want, Beau.
Exactly.
It's totally fine. So he's kept on coming back with these werewolf ideas that are really fantastic, really far out and original.
Great.
And, I don't know where that's going to stop. He's up to issue 5 already. So,
wow.
So who knows? It could be another 9 or 10 issues before that whole cycle is over with. So
how inspiring, right?
Yeah. So anyway, good on you, Beau. And so
Speaking of werewolves, how do you point to things? Yeah, there it is. Yeah. What's that?
That is a promo shot of what I'm working on, not with Beau, but alongside Beau, is my werewolf graphic novel that I've started. So
fantastic.
I just finished this the other day. So
nice. Very nice.
So that's a character called Creighton Tull, who is my big bad in my werewolf story that I'm producing. And it also features a young Jackaroo character, the young Jack Keegan as well. So it serves as the origin of the Jackaroo, but it's also dressed up as a werewolf story as well. And
don't give away too much.
No. But and so I discussed this. I said to Beau that I was working on a werewolf story, which I think got him doubly inspired. So he said, "Hey, can I use your character?" And I said, well, it's sort of the origin of my character, and it's a pretty important thing, but Beau likes to operate in alternate realities. And,
I was going to say.
Yeah, so I said, as long as it's clear that your Creighton Tull isn't mine, but it kind of is, but in another reality, it's an interpretation of the character, go ahead and do what you want. So
I love it.
He's used that character as well, but in his own way. So
yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's also making me honest to get a lot of stuff done and launched before he gets around to releasing his version of that character. So next week I'll be releasing some preview stuff and some promotional stuff on that to get the ball rolling. Of course, if Beau's going to release his Nightside series as quickly as he reckons, I've got about 8 months to go to
That's right.
get some stuff done before he starts releasing some werewolf goodness.
Yep, cool. All right, keen as. Get it on.
So what else? Speaking of the old days, did you hear that in early April, Kerry Thew passed away? Did you know Kerry at all?
I knew him, not in passing, a little bit more than in passing, but I didn't know him very well. But lovely fella, always made time to come and say hello to me at conventions that we were both at, and very supportive of greener pastures and whatever we were up to, and always asking when is there going to be more, when is there going to be more. So very supportive, and again, it's like the gravitational pull of comics. We have a Chinese restaurant we like to go to around here, and he would sometimes be at the same restaurant with his mum, which was lovely. So we'd see Kerry at the local Chinese every so often as well. So yeah, lovely guy. Very sad to hear, and then that he's passed away. And then there's the whole kind of selfish aspect of that, which is you start to feel your own mortality again. All of these people who have been in your circles since you started, because he's been around forever.
Yeah.
When you hear one of them has unfortunately passed, it's frightening in a number of ways.
I first met him at Land Beyond Beyond, actually, because he'd he'd help out, and I don't know whether he was a silent partner or just a close friend of Terry Brown, the owner operator of Land Beyond Beyond. But Kerry was down there a lot. And this is at the early days of Cyclone, where I'd be down there, getting stock in Terry's shop and having a chat to Terry about things. And Kerry was there as well. And we struck up a friendship similar to yours, where he was always supportive of what we were doing and always interested. And there was one year where he was going to San Diego, and so was I. And he said, "What are you doing for accommodation? I'm at this hotel, and I've got a spare bedroom. Did you want to crash with me for the convention?" So I did, and so that's when we bonded, closely, and we went out for dinner a couple of times, and we just talk comics like till the cows come home. There was another year where he shouted us at the San Diego Yacht Club he was a member of, and he got a whole gaggle of his friends around that were there for San Diego Comic Con, and he said, "Let's meet at the yacht club at 7 o'clock, and I'll take you to dinner." And it was like, "Sandy, is there dress restrictions?" And he goes, "Oh no, just don't wear thongs." They know me. Don't worry about it. I'm the crazy Australian that sort of comes every year, and so I think he was a member of the San Diego Yacht Club for some reason. But anyway, we had a great night there, and. Did you know or ever see his briefcase? His briefcase. No, he was an agent for selling comics to collectors, high-end collectors, and his briefcase, which would sometimes never leave his side, because inside that briefcase would be some treasure that would send us through the roof. If he only showed it to me once, and some of the goodies. This is pre-CGC slabbing and pre-internet and all that kind of stuff. But his briefcase, which would never leave his side, would have like half a dozen to a dozen choice collectors' items, comic books that he was either selling directly or facilitating as an agent of with American dealers and vice versa back to Australia again. But boy, oh boy, that little brown briefcase, if it could tell some stories, I'm sure it could.
Incredible.
Yeah. So, lovely guy and some lovely memories. And, as you say, sad to hear of his passing. So, rest in peace, Kerry. Yeah, very nice guy. And since being aware of his passing, there's a lot of people come out of the woodwork telling very similar stories about how supportive and friendly and pervasive that he was at Australian conventions, at comic shops all around the country, well, particularly on the East Coast. Yeah, because he spent a bit of time up in Queensland in his later years as well. But lovely guy. Mm.
Yeah, I'm looking at your Jackaroo logo there in the background, which I love. I've always loved your lettering.
That thing.
That thing there. I don't think I realised for a while how much of your inking I've taken on board, but definitely also your lettering as well. But I'm looking at the werewolf and the Jackaroo, and it's like the Jackaroo. So you'll have to pull that AROO off there and make that part
Jackaroo. Of your. Yeah. Well, anyway, next subject. Yeah.
Okay. Shut up, McEwen. What's up?
Well, just going back to Australian creators, maybe that'd be a nice thing to, each show or each chat that we mention someone and talk about them a little bit. And the guy that I wanted to mention as my creator of note this time around is Dillon Naylor, who, as you know, won the Living Ledger Award last year, Ledger of Honor.
Rightfully so. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, rightfully so. And what an amazing and persistent and diligent, let alone creative artist he is. How his career path has been very, very self-driven. I mean, there hasn't really been. He's partnered up with some other creators to do certain projects over the years, but I always define him as a solo artist who has a clear vision of each project that he wants to do, and he just goes about achieving it all by himself. Even though, I'm sure things like Pop Culture and 2 Minute Noodles, he was working with other creators, and he asked people for his Dar and Dill comic to help out with stories and stuff like that. It's still, what's the term? And I don't know how to say the word. An auteur, is that?
Yeah.
He strikes me very much as an auteur. What's your opinion of his work and career?
Oh, it's terrible. Terrible. I've loved Dillon's work forever. I probably the earliest stuff I got of his were the show bag stuff, and it wouldn't have been in show bags. I can't remember how I would have gotten it. Maybe at conventions, I don't know. But when he was really like riffing on Eisner and Wood, and really kind of doing those. Highly influenced by those guys. I just loved it, and the amount of detail and it's his sense of three-dimensionality, which was not ruled by proper perspective, but definitely had like a solidity to it, but it was just so much fun. And then continuing to watch everything that he did, he definitely changed or evolved depending on what needed to be done. Because Patricia was a completely different way of approaching art for the audience and the context. The audience being, children, but the context being something that might be the IP might be able to be sold in different manners. Did you know that he had like clothes in, was it Target or whatever for a while, but there was a Patricia line of clothing and whatnot. So
that does ring a bell.
Always felt like it's such a shame that it didn't take off more at the time, because totally ripe to be utilized in that manner. It's so, I don't know, stuff like Patricia, keep in your back pocket. Hopefully one day he'll be able to relaunch that and, actually.
Well, he's always pushing. He's always pushing.
Yeah.
There was that creepy caretaker hardcover that was out not so long ago.
That's right.
I think he's always got probably 3 or 4 ideas on the go to sort of work on at any given moment. Like his Rock and Roll Fairies was another good example of what you're talking about, as his style.
With Ian Thompson, I think.
Ian
was it?
Thomas?
Yeah. Ian C. Thomas.
How his style de-evolved to cater to the market that those characters were being marketed to.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I got in touch with him back in the day because he's inked some Jackaroo material. And I got in touch with him just for that quality of thick brushwork that he brought to his artwork. And I thought, wouldn't that be great for the Jackaroo to complement my pencils and art style? And so our relationship goes right back to the early issues of the Jackaroo, and then that crossed over into the Planet of the Apes project that he worked on with Greg Gates to help me get that finished. And again, his style really added to the mood of the project.
So back when it was the Jackaroo, so what had Dillon done up until then? Was it the Showbag Dar and Dill stuff?
Yeah,
or had he done some
Tales of the Ovoid and a few other titles around that same time period. So it was relatively early. But what struck me was the same thing that struck you as well. His sense of Wally Wood meets Eisner handling of light, and his confidence with spotting blacks, and his confidence and ability with feathering and his brushwork. All stuff that I probably thought that I was lacking at the time, that I wanted to introduce into my style.
Right. So, right. Well, I don't think you were lacking in it. And as somebody who was totally like just loved the Jackaroo even at that point, it was. I knew of Dillon's work as well, and it was both disappointing and exciting when I saw that there were pages being penciled by you but inked by Dillon, and it was like, oh, don't I get like 100% pure Chaloner? But then I'm going, oh, this stuff by Dillon, the inking by Dillon is pretty interesting and is definitely adding something to it. It's not like Vinnie Coletta inking Jack Kirby, where it's just like
definitely not.
Yeah, no, it was definitely plussing, and in an interesting way. It was more robust. Definitely, like felt chunkier and heavier in a good way. Your line can often be very delicate, and like you said, like I remember that there was that. Was it like a 3/4 splash in a dungeon with chains and
yes,
all of that stuff. Amazing. That was the
first time that I'd really worked on my own project with another artist, and it forced me to finish my pencils more than I'd ever been finished before, because it was posting the artwork down to Melbourne, and so all the information had to be there for the inker, and I didn't want to make him any more uncomfortable, because I knew that he was a bit nervous about inking the pages from the get-go. But so I over-informed. I really finished the pencils in a big way. So that introduced a different level to what I would usually bring to the pages, which was useful to sort of not leave your inker in the lurch or expect them to inform the page with too much information of giving of themselves. So and that carried through into Planet of the Apes, where I think Dillon's inking style, his thick brush work and solid blacks really added to the feel and mood of the story. So
absolutely, dear listener, if you've never seen Gary and Dillon and Greg's Planet of the Apes miniseries, 4 issues, was it? Was it 4?
Yeah. I don't think it'll ever get reprinted. So
no, very hard to get. But such a great, interesting take on the whole oeuvre of the apes and time travel and all of that stuff. Really, really cool.
Yeah. So Dillon. So he's one that like if you just say the name, I would put money on the counter straight away, sight unseen, knowing that it'll be of a certain standard and really entertaining. I do know that he's currently working on revisiting the Pop Culture and 2 Minute Noodles series, which he's doing with Comic Oz with Nat Carmichael. I think he might be. I've seen some new artwork that he's been posting online for that, so that'll be interesting. So do you know if it's reprinting all the old stuff, but is he doing new stories as well? I think there's a new story in there.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So
I know one young man who happens to be my son, Samuel, who's really excited that he'll finally be able to get that, because he's only seen a couple of issues and has been in contact with Dillon saying, have you got any of the back issues? I really want to read it. So yeah, it's a good time capsule of the period, because like you said, there were a lot of guest artists, so it should be really interesting. I haven't read it since it came out, so, and it was weirdly formatted as well. Some were in comic book format, some were square, and
I think issue 5 or issue 6 I think was a square bound one with 2-color cover. It was really quite effective. It had a goth character with a lot of makeup on her face, leaving an impression of her face on the pillow on the cover, and had utilized the 2 colors, black and purple, I think it was, so in such a genius way. So everything he touches has got a little dollop of creativity about it that's lovely. And he's going through a phase now, I think, of reassessing and repackaging all of his old material into trade paperbacks. So it's a good time to follow his career and to pick up his recent trades that would illustrate and inform his whole career. So I think a lot of us are getting to that stage now where we're reapproaching and reevaluating past work and getting a chance to assess, revalue, and put a full stop on stuff that was started decades ago and may not have had a chance to reach fulfillment.
Yeah. Very cool.
And
so Dillon.
Yeah, so he last year won the Living Ledger Award, which was very well earned and well deserved. And because I haven't seen too much about it, I thought it was worth mentioning this time around.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he's someone to get on board with now while you can.
Yeah, he's going to be a trend of the future.
Yep. I had lunch with him and his partner the last time we went to Bendicon in Bendigo. We went via Ballarat and had lunch with him, which was great to catch up with him.
Yeah. Cool. And that Living Ledger is, of course, the Ledger Awards, the Comic Arts Awards of Australia. And last year I noticed that you and I aren't involved with the awards anymore. And so I noticed that last year that a Platinum Award wasn't issued. And what are your thoughts on that? Whether it was a big gaping hole in proceedings? And
hang on a second. I've just got a can of worms down here. I'd like to open up if that's okay.
Yeah, without opening up the can of worms, without getting too neggy-eggy about the whole thing.
Sure.
I thought it'd be interesting to see who we might have put forward as a nomination or a nominee for the Platinum Award.
So the Platinum Award is for someone who has given selflessly to help the Australian comics community and art form. I was kind of the head of the committee there for most of the time, and it was very hard to get the other people on the committee to understand, and the public really, because we would take nominations so that we were more informed. And one of the hard things to try to get across was, if somebody is publishing comics then they're probably not really eligible for being a platinum ledger recipient just because they're publishing, because publishing is what we all do, and publishing is for the good of that company, not for the good of the entire community.
Yes. Yeah.
And you hope to make a profit from it. Not that many of us make much in the way of profit, but somebody who would take hours or weeks or months or years of their own time to try to raise the entire community or sections of the community with no chance of getting any kind of remuneration or that's what the platinum is really supposed to be for. And it doesn't have to be a person. It can be an event or a body or a community or whatever. So
someone who,
to be honest,
someone or some event that is that raises the industry in Australia above and beyond the call of duty. That is a huge advocate of the art form, not necessarily a player as far as a commercial business concern or anything like that.
That's right. Yeah. Hopefully there'll be a platinum given out this year, and maybe two to help make up for missing last year. I feel like it takes a bit of a real like takes some thinking about to really put forward people for that award. Like it's not. I don't think it's something that should be done willy-nilly. So hard one to talk about without really giving it much forethought in this regard, especially in a public forum like this YouTube show is, pretty public. If we were just chatting, then I might start throwing all sorts of names out and then start pulling out reasons why not. Right, and I don't want to do that on the air, so to speak. But I don't know. I actually don't think this is something that we can talk about on the air like this beyond what I've already said. Otherwise, I think I'll be upsetting people and not because I'd be saying anything terribly bad, but just because I would be talking about positives and negatives of people to weigh things up, and I don't want to talk about negatives in any way because we're all such wonderful people, us in the Australian comics. Right.
Yeah. Well, while I agree with you on all things to do with not opening up a can of worms, I think even while we were involved with the awards, there was one name in particular that kept on coming up that for one reason or another wasn't appropriate to put them forward at the time, and that was Bruce Mutard, who actually
that's the name uppermost in my mind, absolutely.
And that's without going into the merits of anyone else, just that Bruce and his work behind the scenes, and he actually ran the awards for several years as well, and he's been an advocate overseas and locally, and he's practically the only name that I would come up with that would be inarguable in 99.9% of cases that he deserves the recognition. And it's something that I regretted not being able to address for certain reasons. Either he was still involved or closely involved with the awards when I had a chance to wave his name or put his name forward for the Platinum Award. And the years went by and that recognition wasn't given. So I think last year it would have been a perfect opportunity for someone like Bruce to be rewarded for his advocacy work over the years, and a bit of a hat tip for his diligence, and he's still doing it now. His involvement with PCAF over the recent years as well. So that's the only name that I could put forward that wasn't going to open up a can of worms otherwise, that I would defend him as a very high-ranking nomination. Yeah,
no, totally agree. That's in all of my time there, Bruce is probably the one that if I'm involved, like that's the one that I'll be campaigning for. He's the person I'd be campaigning for at this point. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's always an interesting conversation, and the nominations that we get in from the public are interesting as well. So it's an interesting one every time. But like you say, I think pretty hard to argue against Bruce for the next one if that's the case.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, I don't think
Hi, Bruce.
If Bruce is a listener, yes. Yeah. Hi, Bruce. How you going? So I think that about covers all of my notes, really.
Cool. I reckon that's about time.
Excellent.
Time, gentlemen. Yeah.
Nice talking to you again.
Absolutely. See you later.
We'll do it all again next week.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. Talk soon.
Bye.